So hi, I'm Alex and I'm on the sofa with Ayesha Hamilton, who is standing for the position of Student Development at our Students' Union. So just to begin with, what are you studying and why are you standing to be our next Student Development Officer?
I study psychology with cognitive neuroscience, and I want to be Student Development Officer because I think I'd actually be really good at it. I've had quite a breadth of experience in activities across the union, and I think that I'd make a really, really good Student Development Officer.
Okay, so there's been a considerable decrease in voter turnout over the past years in regards to the Union Council. So it actually decreased 35% compared in 2014 compared to 2013. So what makes you think that people actually vote, and why should people care and be engaged in union politics?
I think a large part of it is people that are already engaged in union politics have kind of made up their mind. They know roughly where they stand, who they want to back, and a large part of voter turnout, I think, comes from them. There's probably, well, there is a big problem of engagement and getting students to engage in the voting process, and I think it's very misunderstood at the minute. I think there's a lot of students, I think particularly first years, don't necessarily understand how the sabbatical elections affect them and why it's important and why they should vote.
So do you feel like we need to educate more students about the elections?
I don't know if it's education, I think it's more awareness. There's been a really good marketing push this year from the SU in terms of getting it out there and letting people know. But I just think maybe if it was spread more towards halls and city accommodation, then perhaps, you know, there'd be a bit more awareness and maybe people would want to be more engaged. Make it fun.
It's an interesting idea, so kind of spreading engagement to the halls of residents.
Yeah, definitely. I think because a lot of it's campus-based at the minute, and particularly SU, and it doesn't really extend beyond the SU. And the SU is the very core of students' life.
It's an interesting idea. It's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
So since the start of the election, there's been a decrease, again, of 35%, from 20 to 13 in the number of candidates actually standing for positions. Yeah. So what's your reaction to this, and why is it so? Do you think it indicates a lack of interest in union politics?
I don't think it's a lack of interest at all. I think a large part of it is, again, awareness. I think people, when they sign up, like for instance this year, a lot of people have dropped out. There was 7 people in my category, and there's now just me, Lloyd and Kaifa. And I think a large part of that is perhaps people sign on and maybe they get intimidated because they think, like for example, Kaifa, he's, you know, sports president, he's quite well known within the uni, and perhaps people think that it's better to sort of leave them to it.
Or do you think it's maybe that people just aren't, you know, prepared to go through all this campaigning, all these workshops? Do you think more needs to be done?
It's hard work. It is hard work. I'm not going to sit here and lie. But I think perhaps if there was a few more sessions before you nominate yourself, so you could be perhaps a bit more aware of what the process would involve.
Especially what you're going to get yourself into as well.
Yeah, exactly. I was quite lucky in that I had a few people I could turn to and talk to before I made the decision, and I was able to make an informed decision because of the people I spoke to. They already had experience in this sort of area, so they could give me sort of an insight into what it would be like and what to expect, and the sleepless nights.
Yeah, always memories. So just one final question before we move on to something about student development. So there are currently 14 sabbatical positions. Now, as you know, 5 are being contested this month. So do you not think there are too many positions, and surely this leads to a conflict of interest which impedes effective union policy?
In comparison to a lot of other students' unions, we actually have quite a low amount of sabbatical officers. I think it's Loughborough has, I think they actually have double the amount that we do. They have quite a lot. So I think it's not necessarily about quantity. Without sounding cheesy, I think it is quality. And I think that perhaps we have a good amount of sabbatical officers. I think it's really good that they've expanded experience into wellbeing and student development this year, because it's such a broad category experience, and you definitely need 2 separate roles to manage it and to really help students and engage students. So I think 5 full-time SABs is perfect, and the liberation officers, the part-time officers, are so important to representing underrepresented students.
So there's definitely not too many then? You
No.
think there's right amounts?
Right amount, yeah.
Okay, so we're just going to move on to talk a little bit about student development now. Okay, so sports are a neglected part of student life, and it's compulsory for anyone engaged in sports to buy the society membership and a sports card. Do you not think we should actually lower the costs of sports card and society membership to encourage more students to participate?
Yeah, so one of the big things that all 3 of the student development candidates have spoken about is gym fees as it is, and where the other 2 have sort of said that they want to prevent the fees from going up. I'm aware of the fact that they will be going up. There's unfortunately nothing that can be done to stop it. It's already in motion. Prices will be going up. I'm not sure what they've been set out, but I know that they are going up. So what I've proposed is a builder pass system where people can sort of alter their sports card to their needs. So because it is expensive and students don't have a lot of money, And I think the Build Pass scheme would be a really, really good idea to make gym memberships a lot more affordable. If you just want gym, if you just want sports insurance, you can do that.
Yeah, at the moment we've got like the 3-tiered system, so we've got Gold Plus, Gold and Silver. Now, as you know, the Gold is for students who want to participate in like unlimited access to gym facilities, and Silver is just for like, you know,
sports
if you want to do classes.
much,
so do you not think that's an already okay balance for students, or do you think they actually need to really, you know, pick apart the membership and actually go ahead and make their own card? Do you not think that will confuse everyone?
I don't think it will confuse people. I think it would make it a lot more accessible and a lot more affordable, and that's
How about impractical? Do you not think?
Not impractical. I think I agree that it is good having a sort of three-tiered system as it is, but it can be very rigid and it can be very unaffordable. And I think it's important to, this is probably more a well-being point than a student development point, but engaging in sort of a healthy lifestyle and promoting a healthy lifestyle. If we want to encourage students to get involved, then we need to make it accessible. And one of the big points of accessibility is affordability.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. So I'm just going to go on to your manifesto now. So just before we start, what is your #1 priority if elected?
My #1 priority would probably have to be representing underrepresented groups and societies. I've spoken quite a lot about it in my manifesto, particularly sort of distance, part-time and international students and learners. I feel like there's a lot that could be done to help support them and get them more involved in the union, because there's not a lot at the minute out there for them.
So how would you go about doing that?
So one of the things that I've actually said in my manifesto is I want to bring in surgery hours. So it'll be an open door sort of policy, which if you're a distance learner, it's obviously going to be a little bit hard, but I want to sort of set up Skype sessions where they can Skype in, and if they want to talk about anything, they can. We also have the Distance Learners Forum at the minute, which is so good and it's so, so vital. And I'd like to keep that going and bring sort of more student development points into it.
Okay. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the Higher Education Achievement Report. Now, you mentioned this quite a lot on your manifesto. Now, more needs to be done to actually communicate here at an early stage of, you know, in a semester. So how would you go about doing this?
Very similar to what I was saying earlier about how with the SAB elections this time there's been a really big push in marketing. I really want to bring that with the HERE. The HERE's still a very new concept, and not a lot of people know about it. And if they do know about it, they might not necessarily know how it affects them and why it is important. So marketing, I think, will be really, really key to try and push it out there. Social media is like such a big part of, you know, student life at the minute. Nowadays, in general, social media is massive. If we can utilise that and sort of harness it and use it to create an awareness.
How about workshops, maybe?
Workshops, yeah, definitely. I think that sort of brings in the issue of training and funding, but if there's a way of doing it, then I would love to do it, and I think it'd be a really good way to bring it in.
Okay, so just following on from that, you said you want to have a greater number of activities to become HERE recognised. So what kind of activities do you have in mind?
Okay, so at the minute a lot of it's based around volunteering, you have your Leicester Awards sort of stuff, course rep. I want to see more sort of sports-based activities brought onto the HERE, because at the minute there's not a great deal. There's actually online, and I don't think many people know about this as well, there is a list of everything that's HERE accredited. And there is quite a lot, but I'd say it's quite narrow in terms of what it covers. So definitely sports activities, more sort of society things. So if you're on a society committee, this is one thing actually that I really would like to change. If you want to be recognised as being on a committee of a society on the HERE, you have to put in extra hours of volunteering. And by just being on a society committee, you are volunteering your time. Students are giving up their time to do that, and I don't think it's right that you should have to do an additional 6 hours, whatever it is, of volunteering. So I'd like to sort of reform that and look at the way that the accredited HERE activities are at the minute, or the HERE accredited activities, are at the minute, and sort of look at how it can work better for students.
Okay, now considering you want to expand the number of activities to become HERE recognised, have you considered that the Higher Education Academy actually owns the scheme? So they actually decide what gets to become HERE accredited. So have you thought how you'd maybe combat that obstacle?
Yeah, we can represent ourselves at a higher view. If your voice is loud enough, it will be heard, essentially, is what I'm thinking. And I feel that Leicester Award, that's sort of under the control of the university itself, and there's no reason why the SU can't be more involved, and we can stand up, you know, it's essentially now in the graduate market, it's not enough just to have a degree, it's not enough just to have a good degree, you have to have an amazing extracurricular. Exactly, development, student development activities are so, so important, and if that's going on the HERE, then students should have a say in how their activities are signposted on the HERE and how they're recognised for what they do in their spare time.
Okay, so just one final question. So what will you do to improve the democratic accountability of executive officers to union council?
Okay. So yeah, I talk a bit about transparency on my manifesto, and I think one of the key things is making information accessible. There is certain bits and pieces of information that's accessible. So, for example, in Union Council, you can access the minutes if you want to. There is actually a budget report at the minute that is able to be accessed by students, but it's not necessarily bite-sized information, and we don't all have lots of time. You sort of want to get information where you can take it and have it in bite-sized chunks, and I want to make it very clear and make it very obvious to students. This is what's going on, this is how you can find out what's going on, and I want to get opinions as well. I think it's Kumar, he says in his manifesto about press conferences. I think that's a brilliant idea, and I think if you can sort of hold the SABs to accountability.
I really think it's about, you know, getting the students back in touch with the sabbatical officers.
Yeah, definitely.
Or vice versa.
Yeah, engagement is so important. It shouldn't be that there's 5 full-time officers sort of heading the students' union and not taking into account the 22,000 students that are at Leicester. It should definitely be, a much more involved process.
Okay, and on that note, thank you, Ayesha.
Thank you.
Thank you.